We will be looking at the question of goodnight spoon. Former convicts of Reddit, what did happen to pedophiles in prison? The first answer comes from, trust me I know this stuff. He said, I was in HDSP for some time due to a drug crime. I ran with the PESA car, Hispanic non-gang related. Upon entering while in the fish tank, 30 days in your cell with a cellie, you see a caseworker who asks you if you want to hit GP, general population, or protective custody. Here you can choose, if you're stupid, molested a child and select GP the moment your stay in the fish tank is over, you are moved to the level 3 yard. Once in level 3 your cellie will ask you your PSI, pre-sentence investigation report, this will have your crime and if you talk to the cops etc. this paperwork will be handed over to the key holder, the leader of the car. If you're clean no issue, if your paperwork is dirty for molesting a child etc. they will tell you it's okay, we all make mistakes etc. In the background, we are planning to take you out. For us, it was either pay the Southsiders to clean our mess or we can keep it within the PESA car. HDSP is in the desert and the yard is covered in rocks. We would wait until chow time. Dinner during winter, breakfast during summer. When we had the cover of darkness walking to the chow hall we would have pre-planted a special rock. Nearing said rock the line would lose its form and the selected person picks up said rock and slams it against the person's head as hard as possible. Normally a person would drop, bleed and we continue as nothing happened, throwing away a used rock. If the person would not drop back, 1 and 2 would either start beating up the person. Really depends on how bad they fucked up. If it was a true fuck up a shank would be used. In 2 years only saw this happen 2 times, none by the Pisas but by the Southsiders. Dusted Nuggets said, I was just in a high security felony wing of jail waiting for extradition to another state, not in prison at the time. Well, the few that came in were told to go to SEG or get their fucking heads busted every day till they did. The one dude who came in and refused to leave was yelled at, spit on, and threatened until everyone had enough. 3 dudes ran up in his cell and threw him the most vicious beating you can imagine. I remember him crawling out of his cell and the dude pulling him back in for more. I could hear the bones breaking from 20 feet away. He died on the way to the hospital. All the guys that took part were there on murder beefs anyway, so the extra 5 years they got was worth it to them. This was an extreme case as the jail was overpopulated and they tried to sneak the chamos in Gen Pop because SEG was full. Everywhere else I was incarcerated they keep the touchers far away from us. Mathamates said. Spent 10 months in the Texas prison system for manslaughter. FYI, first offense and it was an accident, which is why it was a short sentence. They were typically berated and yelled at pretty badly. Most of them that stuck around the Gen Pop dorms were honest and just pervs. She was 16, he was 22. That kind of shit. We had one guy, raped both his daughters from 4 on up. Finally his then 14 years/0 hid her cell phone and recorded it happening to her younger sister. Spoiler, this is graphic. One night I woke up to pee on my neighbor, bed at my feet, we were in rows, pulled me back down. Told me not to go to the bathroom. I'm new to this and don't know any better and brushed it off. Anyways 3 guys had the Chester pinned down raping him. At this point, all I really saw was blood or shit and then his face. It looked like a sock wrapped around a broomstick shoved sideways in his mouth to keep him quiet. The scary part was the sound. There were 56 men in the storm. There wasn't enough sound to wake up hardly anyone. All this lasted maybe 1 second and I went back to bed. I didn't sleep that night or the next at all. That man spent the rest of the time I had there with his head down or swinging wildly at anyone who even looked at him wrong. The worst part is most everyone acted like it was normal and I didn't do a damn thing about it. I went with the flow. I lived in the same large, gymnasium-sized, room for 5 months with him and could never look at him knowing I didn't help. Prison is hell. People act like it's what they deserve. If our government elects spent 1 week in a prison we would see reform so fast. I only made it because I was smart. A few well-respected people basically said this guy is not coming back, don't fuck with him, and I would build a tattoo gun or radio, steal from work. Guards never looked twice at me. I still got stabbed, got beaten, and had to hurt a few people. For anyone wondering, I crashed going 14 miles per hour over the limit, 74 in a 60. My best friend didn't have a seatbelt on and flew out when we flipped. I doubt I'll ever be normal and can hardly live with myself some days. I admitted to the EMT to drinking 4 hours prior to the crash. I thought my legs were broken and wanted to be honest before I got pumped full of meds, and even though I knew I was okay to drive and the blood work came back negative, a cop had me saying it on video and I got charged with manslaughter. Apparently screaming sorry at the top of my lungs at my dead friend's body looked bad too, according to my lawyer, and made me look guilty. I signed a plea. Buck Hardpeck said. They check into PC or they get the business. Most Chesters I encountered in jails and prisons were older, white guys. There were a few there for sexual relations with girls who were 15 when they were 18, and they are generally left alone as it is a situation many people might find themselves in as an 18-year-old kid. Older dudes do not get that leeway though. They are beaten, extorted, robbed, raped themselves, or killed by the alpha inmates. They really didn't like to kill the guys at the camp I was on, as they are, like I said, older white guys. They typically have money on their books and go to the commissary every week. They are an endless source of hygiene products and snacks. I've seen a line of inmates outside of a Chester's cell door with a list of items they each want him to order. For his sake, he better hope he's got the money on his books to satisfy all their wants. If he doesn't, it never ended well for him. At a county jail I was in Northern Virginia 1997, they would bring food carts up to each block with the appropriate number of trays/drinks for each inmate to receive one meal. It wasn't exclusive to Chester's, but if you saw a guy grab 2 trays back to back through the food slot, you knew someone either A, wasn't going to eat because of their crime, or B, they were put on a diet because whoever grabbed 2 trays thought that person was a bitch. Normally though, they would announce to the rest of the block whose tray they were taking to alleviate any potential confusion in case one of their boys was the guy going without. Funny part is, most people didn't even eat the food. They waited until everyone had access to their boxes. We were locked out of our cells in the day room every morning at 7:30, and made burritos, ramen, chips, meat, cheese, etc., for dinner. COs know what's going on. They don't really seem to care though. I guess overall they get it the worst. A lot of guys are there to do their time and go home, or do their time as drama-free as possible. All bets are off though when it comes to Chester's. I kind of felt bad for them, to be honest. What makes him so much worse than me? Sure, I didn't molest kids, but what makes their crimes of murder, armed robbery, and rape any less life-changing or traumatic for their victims? I did see a Chester beat the absolute dog shit out of 2 guys in his cell one night though. That was pretty rad. The dude was like 26, girl lied and said she was 19, 15, and he got some time. He ended up throwing one of them off the tier onto a table in the day room. I never root for sex offenders per se, but that was fucking awesome. And last Scritters said. Ex of mine went to prison in Brazil. Said an offender came in after he was processed. Both the inmates and the guards dressed him in a dress, wig, put lipstick on him, put out cigarettes on him, and beat the crap out of him.